Not sure why Twitch's chat is not working again. But you want to know what? Hey there, Justice 3 Gaming. Welcome to your daily dose of Marvel Strike Force. And today's subject is going to be none other than the Heroes for Hire. And I'm going to be discussing ISO-8s and what the community is actually choosing based on the ISO competence that you can check out on MSF.gg. I do highly recommend using them as a resource for your Marvel Strike Force needs. They are very good at putting together some great content for you to look through. But let's get into it. So I picked up Misty Knight finally to complete this Heroes for Hire team. And I went through some of the different variations of the ISO-8s and did my best guess. And I'm developing the ISO-8s. They're not filled out to their class 5s or anything like that. Although they are dangerously close. Just ran out of ISOs, honestly. Or ions, I mean. And I do think I've kind of fell on what I want to be able to do with these guys' ISO-8s. My recommendations aren't necessarily going to be the same as what you should be using on your Heroes for Hire team, unless you meet certain qualifications, and usually that's going to boil all the way down to how many red stars do you got, how many T4s do you have invested. They are my newest project, so I will be maxing this team, and I'll do some videos for you guys along with any kind of positioning, although this is sort of giving away my recommendation for positioning to begin with. And I'll tell you why, and I will reveal to you in a little bit who my fifth choice is defensively for this team. So let's go through the ISO-8s that the community so far that has picked up Misty Knight and has completed their Heroes for Hire, what they think about the ISO-8s that they're placing down for these characters. And a lot of them are content creators like myself. I'm telling you that much right now because, you know, we're all picking up those packages to be able to try to get some good content out there. I've already seen a whole bunch. Some people have some great recommendations, others faulty. But I'm not going to go into that too much. And so let's go over Colleen Wing. The community believes that Striker is her most powerful choice right now. And ultimately, when you're talking about the hive mind, they're always going to be a little bit better than any singular mind of things. And again, like I was saying, based on your individual characters, that could drastically change what your choices are going to be for your ISO-8s. So be careful when you're looking at confidence or other content creators other than myself, of course, and decide for yourself what's going to be best defensively for your team during war. Outside of war, I don't recommend using this team for anything really, but if you do, that is going to change your choices for ISO-8s because there are a lot of things that drastically change, like HP and focus for this team in war that you need to be aware of. So study those kits closely, make your choices wise. Second is going to be Skirmisher. Third is Raider, Fortifier, and then Healer. Obviously, fourth and fifth are usually the worst choices that you can go with. And Striker, I would have to agree on this one. And based on her kit, I do, contrary to what I have on my screen right now, I do have a theory that Skirmisher is going to work out better for her because her damage is already really high. But here's the thing about her damage. It's piercing, mostly. And piercing damage is some of the best damage you can get in the game right now. I mean, some of the biggest characters right now are sporting piercing damage. We're talking Silver Surfer, Kestrel, and it can be pretty drastic how much damage they can do based on that alone. So I'm actually thinking about going with the community on this one and going Striker. However, she is super fast. So defensively, when she gets out onto the field, she'll be able to place that vulnerability for Misty to take advantage of, or whoever your fifth character is, and remove some negative statuses out there if she hits any of the ones that has vulnerability already. I don't see that happening. It's one of the reasons why I'm kind of changing my thoughts on the process, because there's nobody else out there that's really placing that vulnerability out there for her to take advantage of. She is fast. She's not that fast. And given that her piercing damage is actually pretty damn high, adding a little extra damage from her ISO-8, will more than likely be a huge advantage. Now, I do think that once ISO Blues come out, Skirmisher probably is going to be the absolute best for her. But at the same time, because that damage is so high, I do believe because she's a brawler that her bleeds are really going to be affected by her overall damage that she's causing as a character. So, you know, without seeing footage of my own characters going down, it's hard to tell. I can tell you for a fact right now, this team is impossible to gauge in RTA. I mean, at the level of play that I'm dealing with right now, I'm facing pretty much all Dr. Dooms, Emma Frost, and Azemo for sure, and definitely those three, but a variation of those and some of the other more powerful characters in the game, especially Kestrel. Kestrel's friggin' everywhere in RTA, and so is Silver Surfer, but usually not at the same time. So again, I'm going to agree with this one and go Striker for Colleen in the long run. That's probably going to be your best investment. You're going to get your most bang for your buck here on autoplay, obviously, for your defense here in War. Let's move on to Iron Fist. In first place, we got Healer, and then second, Striker. Skirmisher is third, fourth, and fifth. Again, might as well push those aside. Fortifier and Raider are extremely hard ISO-8s to place. Not that I don't know where to put them, but they're very unique in who can utilize those the most. Fortifier usually needs some high evasion or fast character to really make that pop, like a couple of the symbiotes like Anti-Venom or Scream. But using Fortifier on tanks almost seems like a no-brainer, right? Not really, because they're super slow, and that percentage, it maxes out right now at like 7%. That's not that big at all. I mean, of course, their max barrier is based on their overall HP, and Luke Cage is going to have an absolute metric ton of HP to be able to utilize that barrier. But once it's gone, it's gone. I mean, he's a taunter to begin with. So even your average hits are going to take that barrier down really, really fast. And he's not fast enough to build it up to the point where it's going to be useful again. So, you know, Fortifier for me, it's a rare instance when you can actually get that to work right. Again, another one of the ISO-8s that I do believe is going to drastically change once ISO Blue comes out. And I might even switch Luke Cage back over to a Fortifier if that comes to it. On this one for Iron Fist, wholeheartedly 100% agree. Healer class is the one to go. Once this gets up to class 5, you're talking not about just the active healing that he can do to himself, but he's going to boost the on-turn heal that he's going to give to somebody. For one, 5% of that is going to be automatic heal to the most injured person, I believe. I mean, that's just going to happen no matter what because it's an ISO-8. He does have a decent chance for healing any heroes for higher or defender allies that are on the field. I also city heroes on the field, and when that happens, he'll be able to heal them. But that's not a guaranteed heal. There's still a chance that it might not work, and usually that's probably going to be the hold that you're going to want to take advantage of when it does happen. So healer there is definitely a big one. A lot of people might think that taking down Iron Fist is a really good idea. You know, having him be able to pop back over that 50% after he uses one of his charges, extremely useful. Do you want these guys to go down? No, not really. You want them to try to be a 2 to 3 shot team at the most, and that's where you want to try to utilize this team the best that you can, and that goes a long way in choosing who your 5th member is actually going to be. Now let's move on to Luke Cage. The community believes that healer class is definitely one of them. Again, Fortifier is number 2, which I do actually find pretty mystifying. He's so slow. I mean, his armor is he's got some of the highest armor in the game, of course, and Fortifier could be a useful one, but replenishing that, not so great. However, I will say In war, this could be a deciding factor, and I do kind of understand why there might be this large chunk of current owners to use Fortifier and Healer. Healer, no brainer. Once his turn comes up, he has a ton of HP. This will boost him back up there, increase the sustain for this team overall, and you're good to go. However, Fortifier can have the same effect, and even more so, especially given the fact that you do have your characters like Kestrel or Silver Surfer out there that does have one-shot abilities. I don't think they can take Luke Cage down, but they can get him damn close. And that's why a lot of people, I think, are going healer class on this one. But Fortifier, now hear this one. Let's say you got a little bit weaker than normal Luke Cage. Well, Fortifier might actually be a better choice, given that it has an on-spawn effect. Meaning he's going to get a huge chunk of barrier when he first comes onto the field, but that also includes resurrections, and this team does that extremely well. Okay, when they have charges, they can resurrect, and you'll be rezzing Luke Cage probably a billion different times. Not you specifically, but autonomically you're going to get that spawn, and when that happens, dude, you got a big old Fortifier shield that Luke Cage. There's nobody better to be able to utilize a barrier like that and hold on to it long enough for the rest of the team to heal back up and be ready to go for the next round. So that Fortifier might actually be, this might be the first tank in the game that I think that can really use Fortifier well. I have come up against Luke Cages in the past before Heroes for Hire, and that's actually been pretty tough. And now he's got that massive increase to HP, not just for himself, but for all the Heroes for Hire. And he's going to get that resurrection, that on-spawn bonus to Fortifier. So there could be a good chance that that might be a good one, especially if you have a weaker than normal Luke Cage. Once he goes down, he's going to get another barrier. And there's a really good chance with that barrier that if any of the team was close to dying and he ends up taunting or getting that defense up out there, they're going, because of Iron Fist and some other effects, they're going to heal back up and be ready to go for the next sets of turns. And by then, between Misty and Colleen, they'll probably already be defeated, and Heroes for Hire will claim another victory. I personally am going to agree with the community on this one and go healer class for Luke Cage. My Luke Cage is actually not that bad, and most of my Heroes for Hire are all gear tier 14. I am now pushing them to 15 at the moment, and so in the current state and ranking that my alliance is actually in, we're fighting, the larger than normal teams that are out there. A lot of them are very familiar with my defensive lineup, so they know they got to save some really big guys across my lineup. And or they end up going to my partner that's in the other room because he doesn't have as boastful of defensive power as I do. And it kind of throws things off strategically when you're talking about a win or loss in war. But, my line's holding well so far, and this is probably going to push me over the edge just a tiny bit. Now, Misty Knight. There are a lot of people. Virtually everyone wants to put Skirmisher on Misty. That's a tough one to discuss. Let's go through. Second is Striker, of course. Raider, Fortifier, Healer. Now, of course, the kit is a 3-0 kit. So all of it's made on attacks. The only other one that I would find useful would be Raider. But since there's no real crit manipulators to deal with this team, Raider is pretty much all the way out for any attackers on this team. I do not recommend that on any level. So Striker and Skirmisher are viable options here. Now, this is going to be another one of those ones where I think if you choose Skirmisher or Striker, obviously you should choose the opposite for Colleen. That way you can utilize that extra attack. There are some extenuating circumstances there in that it's really going to depend on how powerful each one of those characters are, where your T4 investments are, how many red stars do they have. Skirmisher is a good one, but between Colleen and Misty, I really do feel like Skirmisher is a lost cause on these two. Now, Skirmisher is a good idea outside of war, but in war, not so much. Misty only has like one ability that doesn't have a manipulator to her focus that's not like ridiculously high, and 1000% is still pretty high. And anything with 5000%, of course, is extremely good. And Colleen, boasts that. And their abilities are boosting their focus to begin with. So more times than not, you're going to be landing those abilities to begin with. So there's not a lot to worry about when it comes to Skirmisher. The only thought that you should have is how many positive statuses can I take away from the enemy in order to be able to survive and move on to the next area. Now, Colleen's super fast. Misty's going to have some high sustain. But for me, I am going to disagree with Skirmisher on this one. It is pretty useful to her outside of war, but in war, not really. I mean, her basic does have a defense down on it, and you do want that to land and beat the check. But mostly, the economy around her kit is not that expensive at all. So when it comes around to her turn, she's going to get maybe one or two good uses out of her basic, but it's not going to make or break the fight, I don't think. I mean, I could be completely wrong after the first 30 to 60 days on this one, but I think Skirmisher is the absolute wrong decision to make here, and I think that's more or less a creative choice on anybody that does have her. And so ultimately, personally, as soon as I get the ions, both Misty and Colleen are going to have damage ISO-8s. I am going to most likely change my mind on that once, again, ISO Blue comes out, and that could change what Colleen's contribution to the team will be defensively, because she is very fast. And if she can take out positive statuses from the enemy, that's even better. However, when you're dealing with superpowered characters, overpowered characters like Kestrel or Silver Surfer, well, you're going to need that extra damage. Can't depend on Raider because the percentage is just too low to be dependable, but you can be guaranteed that your damage will get a huge boost if you use Striker. Now with Misty, she's got a lot of big hits also. Given that it's more of a control issue for her, the extra damage is a welcomed addition to this duo. Also for the fact that Skirmisher's not going to be that useful to her. She's not fast enough to really make that useful, and anything that she does hit with her powers during war are gonna land because those manipulators are so high. I mean, the resistances, you'd have to be one of the OP characters to be able to resist Misty Knight. We're talking like Silver Surfer type status, Jessica Jones type status. And so I'm going, personally, I'm going with Striker for both Colleen and Misty Knight. So real quick, let's discuss some of the options people are using for the 5th character on their defensive squad. Now, I do recommend actually using Doc Ock as one of those, especially if you got a kind of a full lineup on your defense. As a standalone character, he can survive damn near anything, and he's going to create a lot of problems for some of the teams that come around and try to take him on. He's also has a summon to hopefully take care of at least one or more charges off of Kestrel if she ends up showing up, which more than likely she will for this fight. Another really good one is a hero city character by way of symbiote Spider-Man. I call him Black Suit Spider-Man. Mostly because he's got a rebounding defense down attack. He can extend any of the negative statuses that end up going out there. And, that means bleeds, that's ability blocks, that's heal blocks. There's a lot of stuff that he can take advantage of while he's out there, up to and including a stun with his ultimate. He also self-heals. So, I mean, that's a really good character to have. However, I don't recommend using him because you're taking him away from an extremely effective team in war, either, defensively or offensively in this case. We're not going to discuss, their effectiveness and their ISO-8s based on where they are, but I'll tell you for a fact that that is an outstanding war team, both offensively and pretty good defensively. but I don't recommend separating him from the team. They work really well together, and separated, they take a really big hit. You can replace them with Spider-Man, but you're not going to get the same effect, even close to the same effect, without Symbiote Spider-Man. So don't do that one. But ultimately, of course, it's your choice. You know, a really big choice could be Silver Surfer on this one, if you prefer using Silver Surfer as a defensive character. I would recommend more than likely going with either a Fantastic Four or Astonishing X-Men, because he can take advantage of the cosmic hero that would be a part of the team here. He doesn't really get that. And it's not a make or break part of his character, but he's an extremely tough character, and probably one of the best, if not the best character in the game right now, aside Doctor Doom. And even then, I would put them, you know, like Doctor Doom, Kestrel, and Silver Surfer on that massive power scale evenly. Let's see here. What are some of the other options people have used as a fifth? There are a lot of city heroes to take advantage of here. Oh, you know, there's actually one really good one, and that's going to be Miss Marvel. My Miss Marvel is not that great. But considering that she can utilize the brawler status of both Iron Fist and Colleen Wing really well here, she's going to be able to get additional attacks off, and she has a massive heal to herself. And so whenever those other characters who drop below 50% end up doing that and basically heal back up, but get a huge boost, you know, to their stats and whatnot, having Miss Marvel pull a taunt is extremely useful. Especially when you're talking in reference to protecting their charges. Silver Surfer does have the ability to remove those charges. So keeping them away from a couple of the bigger characters like Misty Knight and Colleen Wing is probably a really good idea. Luke Cage is going to be able to protect himself pretty well, and Iron Fist is going to support that. But having an additional taunt out there is actually pretty useful. Now, I would recommend using a Skirmisher for Miss Marvel, though, given her assists are extremely high, and getting a vulnerability out there for both Misty Knight and Colleen Wing, they both can take advantage of in a really good way. There are no other city heroes that you could really put here that are going to matter that most. I mean, Punisher has kind of fallen off the edge. That's another character with piercing damage that you could use, but I would suspect that he would fall over pretty quickly. You could use a character like Ghost Rider. He'd be really effective, but not as much as some of the other choices. But there are no other city heroes that I would recommend using. Spider-Man's a really awesome character, or at least he used to be. However, he tends to get super squishy at times. He does have a really good high dodge chance, but you can't depend on that during war, because it's only going to take one good RNG turn to turn that out, and then now the Heroes for Hire are on their own. And more than likely, that's going to be the case anyways. Night Nurse is a good one for sustain, but you're taking her away from a couple other really good options on attack that you don't really want to mess with. And so, other than that, there's not a lot that you can utilize here. However, I will give you my choice for this team. And there's a couple different reasons why I want to use Multiple Man. One, I do have him to gear 15 because I kind of utilize him as a race between him and Venom into getting into the city lane of Dark Dimension 4. However, he does propose a very cool advantage to the Heroes for Hire team. First, I'm going to go ahead and give you my other reason for putting him on this team is that the X Factor is beyond overpowered when it comes to war offense. They are perfectly fine without Multiple Man. I mean, they're over the top with Multiple Man, but they don't need him. Especially when he provides a really good needed service here, which is his dupes. Those duplicates are extremely useful, and his speed is right at the moment just before Luke Cage can go. And so he's going to have his dupes out there, and a lot of people, either AoE or what have you, are going to end up hitting him at some point. And he creates duplicates the more hits he takes. But he's also going to be giving them awesome things like counterattacks, death proof, which is just as good as making a character lose their turn, and even better, taunt. Having a taunt that's out there on the field, forcing the characters to attack that character, ultimately is going to provide a lot of protection for the charges for these characters. Now, there is a downside to it, in that once the dupes flood the field, you're giving options to AoEs. Now, Kestrel is extremely dangerous in that regard, in that her special is going to hit adjacent targets with defense down, and she has a metric ton of piercing damage to take hold of. So you could open yourself up to a pretty big attack from her. But here's the upside to that. Any team that's trying to utilize those really big characters or teams, once they use them, they use them. They can't use them against any other teams out there. And there's some pretty big defensive choices out there that you need to be aware of when trying to take big characters like Silver Surfer, Kestrel, or even Doctor Doom into the mix to take this team out. Do you want to use that on them? Well, I think the best choice here, the most efficient choice at the moment, is going to be Multiple Man. He's going to get a lot of dupes out there. They're going to have death proof, counterattacks, and taunts to protect this team. And he's actually pretty durable. So once those dupes get out there, and like I was saying before, his speed is just right where he goes before Luke Cage. So any dupes that he ends up having out on the field, up to and including the special that he can use at that point, is going to receive a defense up from Luke Cage. Also, he can receive a benefit that none of the other characters get at this point, which is Iron Fist. Not only is Iron Fist going to be able to heal him if he takes any damage with his ISO-8 Class 5 healing, but Multiple Man's a city hero. So he gets that city hero healing whenever Iron Fist is able to utilize it. And that's actually really useful. And which makes him a better choice than most of the others. Now, I would say the next best choice is probably going to be Doc Ock. I mean, he's practically a one-man war machine to begin with. He frustrates a lot of fighters out there with his ability to recharge his health and how much he can block with it. It's pretty crazy. Alright, that's going to be it for the show, guys. That is the agree or disagree with the community. And one last time, I do agree with the community on Colleen's Striker. I agree with Iron Fist's healer class. I do agree with the healer class on Luke Cage, but I'm strongly considering Fortifier if need be, depending on how many wins, how many wins I can get out of this team. But I do strongly disagree with Skirmisher for Misty Knight, given that she's got manipulators for focus especially in Alliance War. There's almost no point in having that Skirmisher out there, and she's not fast enough to really utilize the removals that she could do with those vulnerabilities on the field. She's much better off placing more damage out, because she's not too bad with damage. So giving her a little bit extra with that ISO-8 is pretty good, and it makes her a bigger threat, especially for me. Given that I got real lucky, got her 7 red stars. Not that she has 7 red stars right now, because that's impossible. But since I did, I kind of follow where the red stars go, and that's one of the biggest reasons why this is my new project. So thank you guys for coming by. If you ever do have questions, let me know in the chat in the future. I'm usually here around the same time every day, unless there's some big family stuff going on that I need to take care of. I am a solo parent, so that is always going to take priority, and I'm sure you guys can understand that. Again, thank you for coming by and following. If you're brand new to this channel, please consider following this gaming channel right here on twitch.tv/Justice3Gaming. I do game it up quite a bit during the day, and on the weekends I do have a lot of shows that go out. If you're a bigger fan of YouTube, I do obviously live stream there as well. I multi-stream, so you can catch me out there. And if you do, hit that video with a like, because I do upload these videos as well. And more than likely, if you're just a Marvel Strike Force fan, I do have a dedicated channel called Justice 3 Strike Force. You can go there, check out the videos that I make here. I do the daily Strike Force show, and I try to upload them as soon as I'm able to just run them through a good render and publish them whenever I can in my free time. And leave comments, always. Put those in down below the video that's right here. If you're a real fan of the Daily Strike Force show, hit me up with a subscribe and turn on that notifications bell so you know when I'm uploading any brand new content just for you. And if you do like the Daily Strike Force show, you should make this a playlist or save a major playlist and auto add these videos as they come in. Thank you again for watching. I wish you passion, love, and gaming, and never forget rule number one, and definitely rule number one of gaming in Marvel Strike Force is you go where the fun is, no matter who's telling you what to do, or if your alliance is trying to bully you into a decision you don't want to make. Go where the fun is. If you have to leave, do it.